Have you ever been thirsty? Not that kind of thirsty. Okay. I mean truly lips cracked, throat burning, lungs on fire kind of thirsty. You know what I'm talking about? You ever been thirsty? When I was in high school, I played soccer, and in the off season, I would do a workout to stay in shape. And so it wasn't crazy, but I would get up in the morning, which in high school for me was around noon. And so I'd get up in the morning and I would run to the gym. It was about a mile and a half away. I would lift for a little while, and then I would run home. Here's the thing. The off season was the summer, obviously. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. What do you know about Phoenix? It is very hot there. Very good. So by that time, it's going to be at least 100, 110 degrees, maybe up to 115. And so, yeah, I mean, you'd think if I was smart, I would just wake up earlier. But I didn't. And so I would wake up, I would get my gym clothes on, kind of psych myself up, drink some water, and then I would start my run. And on the way there, it was bad. I get that, it's warm. You get that tickle in your throat, and it's hot. It's not enjoyable, but you get to the gym, you have the gym drinking fountain that's like 25% chlorine, that kind of satisfaction. So, you drink a little bit of that water, which isn't great, doesn't really satisfy you, but then you do your lift, and I would then that was the hard part, right? I'd done my lift, I'd done the run there, and now I had to run home. But by this time, it's even hotter, right? Because I'd been there for maybe 30, 45 minutes. Now I got to run home in this heat. And as I'm running home, it's even hotter, and as I'm to each step on the blacktop, it feels like I'm on this giant piece of black bubble gum, and my legs are just like sticking to it. You know what I'm talking about? And I think back to that story that I heard on the news the other day, where this little girl went outside on the blacktop without her shoes on, and she got second-degree burns on her feet. And I think back to that time in third grade where we did that experiment where you cracked an egg on the blacktop and it would fry it. And I'm thinking, what am I doing here? And I'm so thirsty, and I'm running, and I'm getting thirstier with every step, and I've got that, my lips have started to crack, that white stuff that gets to the corners of your mouth, that indicator that you really are disgusting, you know what I'm talking about? And I am just so thirsty. Have you ever been that thirsty? The people in Elijah's day, Ahab the king and Elijah, knew what it was like to be thirsty. We're going to be in the book of 1 Kings, chapter 17. We're going to be in 1 and 2 Kings all week. My encouragement to you would be to read them. Take some time, read 1 and 2 Kings. This morning we find ourselves in 1 Kings 17. You have your Bibles, if you have an app, whatever device it is that's going to get you the Bible, open it up. This is in the time of King Ahab, and as we just talked about, Ahab was a notoriously bad king. So we have to back up and think about this Ahab character. So back up in chapter 16, verse 30. I'm going to throw this text up there. Ahab, son of Omri, did evil in the sight of the Lord more than all who were before him. He's a bad guy. But why? What was it that was so bad that Ahab did? What was the problem? As if it had been a light thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, he took as his wife Jezebel, daughter of King Ethbaal of the Sidonians, and went and served Baal and worshipped him. And he erected an altar for Baal in the house of Baal, which he built in Samaria. Are you picking up a theme here? Baal. Ahab also made a sacred pole. Ahab did more to provoke the anger of the Lord, the God of Israel, than all the kings of Israel who were before him. He is a bad guy. And why is he a bad guy? Because he decided we will worship Baal. Now, Baal is not a new god. All the way back to Judges chapter 6, when Gideon arrives on the scene, this is right after Israel has come out of the land of Israel, or out of the land of Egypt. They come into the land of Canaan. They are there. They're without a king. They're being led by God. God raises up these judges. One of the judges is named Gideon, and Gideon fights the Midianites, and the Midianites worship Baal. Okay? You're with me. All right, so the Midianites worship Baal. And so Gideon fights against them. This is not a new issue. 300 years before the time of Ahab, Baal is already around. But by the time of King Ahab, by the time he marries Jezebel, the daughter of the king of the Tyronians and Sidonians, this is Baal Shemaiah. And I brought a picture here. I want to show you a picture of what we think this is a map. So as you can see, the pink part where it says Samaria, Kir, Rabbath, Ammon, that bright neon pink part, that's the land of Israel. So is where Elijah is. That's where he's doing his ministry. So Elijah is in the land of Israel. And then the less bright pink part, Edom, Judah, that's the southern kingdom. That's where the throne of David sits. That's where the temple is. That's where appropriate worship for God is supposed to happen. And there's this split. And then you can see the orange part, Phoenicia, where you've got Tyre and Sidon. And it's right by the Great Sea. That's called the Mediterranean. And so while they're by the Mediterranean, they get plenty of water in Tyre and Sidon, but they don't have any crops. So they have to grow, they have to rely on other nations for their food. And so the idea of this marriage between Ahab and Jezebel is that Ahab needs water and Jezebel needs food. And so this is a perfect marriage. They think, we have this thirst, you have this hunger, let's partner together and we will satisfy each other's needs. Right? They think that they're going to get satisfied by making this partnership between Tyre and Sidon. But the problem is, this comes along with worshiping Baal. So now we've got a picture of Baal up. This is a picture of Baal. Now the story of Baal we find in these Ugaritic texts from the ancient Near East. There's this story about Baal. He is this god. And the big thing about Baal is that when he sits down on his throne, he has conquered the god Mot, which is also the Hebrew word for death. Right? So this is important. Baal Shemayim, the Lord of the heavens is his name. He sits on his throne and he reigns over everything. Now specifically, next slide, we see that Baal brings, you can see in his left hand, he's got this, what looks like a lightning bolt. He brings the clouds. He rides on the clouds. He rides on the thunder. Think Thor, right? This is Thor of the ancient world, but like not the fat one, So this is Thor, and he's got, you can see coming off of his lightning bolt, his spear, there is plants, because when he brings the rain, what does that bring? Growing the crops, right? So the whole idea is that you worship Baal Shemayim, and he will provide for your needs. He will satisfy your thirst. Now, the big thing about Baal that you should know about the story is that Baal had this confrontation with death. And one time, when Baal and death are in a fight, death wins, and Baal goes to the grave. But then Baal figures out a way to trick death by sacrificing this person, this young man, dies, and Baal gets out of death, and then they meet and have this battle on a mountain. That might be important. Pay attention. Okay, so they're having this fight. Baal and death. Thank you, YB. All right, very good. So Elijah is coming in this time when Baal is being worshipped by Ahab. He proclaims a drought. Why a drought? Because what is Baal the god of? The rain. Right? Fertility. And so Elijah comes and he says, no, this thing that you think is going to satisfy you actually won't. It's not going to provide for you. The word of the Lord came to him, that is Elijah, saying, go now to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon, and live there, for I have commanded a widow there to feed you. So he set out and went to Zarephath. When he came to the gate of the town, a widow was there gathering sticks. He called to her and said, bring me a little water in a vessel so that I may drink. Elijah is thirsty. The widow in Zarephath has water. Why? Because they live by the sea. So there's water there, but there's no food. As she was going to bring it, he called to her and said, bring me a morsel of bread in your hand. But she said, as the Lord your God lives, I have nothing baked, only a handful of meal in a jar and a little oil in a jug. I am now gathering a couple of sticks so that I can go home and prepare a fire, and I can make a meal for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die. Elijah said to her, "Do not be afraid. Go and do as you have said, but first make me a little cake of it and bring it to me, and afterwards make something for yourself and for your son. First, I know you don't have any food, but trust me, my God can feed you. He can satisfy your needs. Just trust me." Now, the important thing about Zarephath is not only is this enemy territory, but this is a woman who has nothing. She's a widow in Tyre and Sidon. The woman who has everything, Jezebel, who sits on the throne, wants to kill him. And here, the God of Israel wants to provide for this poor widow. "For thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, the jar of meal will not be emptied, and the jug of oil will not fail until the day that the Lord sends rain on the earth." She went and did as Elijah said, so that she, as well as he and her household, ate for many days. The jar of meal was not emptied, neither did the jug of oil fail, according to the word of the Lord that was spoken by Elijah. This widow said, "You know what? Baal, he's not providing my family with food anymore. We're just going to die. So why not give this other God a shot? Why not see if he can feed me, if he can satisfy me, if he can keep my son alive? Why not give it a shot?" You see, what we do is just like these people, we think, man, I've never worshiped Baal, but man, we try to fill our lives and satisfy our hunger and satisfy our thirst with all of these things that will not satisfy. Have you tried to fill your thirst with an imitation? Something that never really will quench your thirst? Maybe for you it's relationships. I knew a girl in college. Her name was Abby. She's this incredible girl, beautiful, smart, funny, and she was just so set on being married. She decided she was going to marry this one guy, and he was a funny guy. He was a fun guy, but he wasn't a guy who she should have married. But she was so convinced that this relationship would give her meaning and purpose and hope and joy that she married him anyway, and her life has been a wreck because of it. I think of my friend Jack. Jack was in high school when I was a student pastor, and Jack was popular. He was smart. He was cool. He was starting on the soccer team from his freshman year on. All of his friends would listen to him, and he started coming to church. And he was this incredible musician, and so he played music. He was on the soccer team. The ladies wanted to be with Jack, and the guys wanted to be Jack. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you have a Jack in your youth group. And Jack came to me, and it was at a CLY move, and he heard the story about the incredible things that God was doing, like a story like this, where he provides in a miraculous way. And things like this that he still does. And he came to me and he said, "Tyler, I want to see God do something like that in my life. Is that you?" And I said, "Jack, that is incredible, man. That's awesome. So let's get going." He said, No. Before I follow him, before I step out in faith, before I go where he wants me to go, before I start talking to my friends about him, I want him to show me something first. I said, "Well, Jack, that's not how it works, man. If you want to see God work, you have to go someplace where you need him. You want to see God work, you have to go someplace that's scary and hard, something that you don't do on yourself." And you know what Jack did with the rest of his high school career? He played soccer and went on dates and didn't impact his high school for anyone but himself. And I love Jack. I do. I still pray for him. I still think about him all the time. But Jack decided, you know what's going to satisfy me? You know what's going to quench my thirst is popularity, being cool, being recognized. That's what's going to make me matter, not serving the God who created everything. Maybe for you, it's not popularity, or it's not relationships, it's sexual relationships of some kind. Lots of stories about that. Maybe for you, it's wealth. You think, you know what? I'm gonna get really good grades, and then I'm gonna get this incredible job, and I'm gonna make lots of money, and that money is gonna provide me with security. Right? Maybe you've watched your parents struggle, and you think, it's not going to be me. No. I'm gonna have enough to pay my bills, and not just pay my bills, but to have an awesome house and everything that I want. And you think that will give me security. And just like Ahab, you are are fooled into thinking something that will never satisfy your thirst will. And so I ask you this week, my prayer, my invitation for you this week is that will you like this widow, will you say, you know what? I've tried Baal. I've tried this other thing. It's not working. Maybe this week, maybe what you should try is the true God, the God of Israel, the God who quenches thirst, who sends the rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. That God, maybe that God will satisfy your thirst. After this, the son of the woman, the mistress of the house, became ill. His illness was so severe that there was no breath left in him. She then said to Elijah, "What have you against me, O man of God, that you have come to bring my sin to remembrance and cause the death of my son?" Notice she doesn't say, "Elijah, I'm innocent. I didn't do anything wrong." No, she knows. Hey, I've worshiped Baal. I've worshiped these other things. But why, when I come close to God, does it get hard? Why am I suffering now? We start to blame God for all of these things and these difficulties that happen. God, why does he care so much about who we worship? You see, there's this incredible story in the book of Hosea. It's about this prophet, Hosea. And Hosea, I don't know if you've read the book of Hosea. If you haven't, you should. It's this incredible story where the prophet is called to go and marry a prostitute. Her name is Gomer. That is not on the list of our possible names, okay? So Hosea marries Gomer, and when they get married, Hosea is surprised because he knows about Gomer's reputation. He knows that she's tried to be satisfied in the embrace of other men. He knows that. But God tells him to marry her, and so he does. And so when he goes and he marries her, she, of course, tries to satisfy her needs, her desires, her thirst with other men. And the whole story of the book of Hosea it's about the prophet, but it's also about God. It's about Gomer, but it's also about Israel. It's about adultery, but it's also about idolatry. It's about the people of Israel, but it's also about us. And this text in Hosea chapter 2, God says through the prophet, after his wife has run off with all these other men, and she's been with this guy and she's been with that guy, and now she's in this place where she's used up and nobody wants her anymore. And this is what the prophet says. In Hosea 2, verse 12, "I will punish her for the festival days of the Baals." Yeah, sin has consequences, guys. It really does. Long and enduring consequences. "When she offered incense to them and decked herself with her ring and jewelry and went after her lovers and forgot me, says the Lord." And we deserve that. But then he says, even after nobody wants her, verse 14, "I will now allure her and bring her into the wilderness and speak tenderly to her. I will woo my wife again. From there I will give her vineyards. I will make the valley of Achor a door of hope. There she will respond as in the days of her youth, as at the time when she came out of the land of Egypt, just like she was on the day she was beautiful in her wedding dress. I will love her again." And the story of Hosea and Gomer is the story of us, that it doesn't matter what you've done or where you've been. And just like this widow, when we think God couldn't possibly love me anymore, why is he bringing my sin before me? The prophet shows up. Verse 19, "He said to her, 'Give me your son.' And he took her from her bosom and carried him into the upper chamber where he was lodging and laid him on his own bed. He cried out to the Lord, 'O Lord my God, have you brought calamity even upon the widow with whom I am staying by killing her son?' She was so thirsty, and God, you provided for her thirst, and now her son dies? This doesn't make any sense." Then he stretched himself upon the child 3 times and cried out to the Lord, "O Lord, my God, let this child's life come into him again." The Lord listened to the voice of Elijah, and the life of the child came into him again, and he revived. Elijah took the child, brought him down from the upper chamber into the house, and gave him his mother. Then Elijah said, "See, your son is alive." So the woman said to Elijah, "Now I know that you are a man of God, that the word of the Lord is in your mouth is truth." She sees that, yes, this God who says he will satisfy your thirst actually will. You remember, who does Baal fight against? Death. but Baal doesn't save her son. You see, the story of Elijah is this confrontation between the false gods that we think will satisfy our thirst and the one true God who will. Now, when I got home from my run, would I grab a soda? Dr. Pepper. Would I get maybe some tea, some Powerade? Some even crazier. Maybe I get like some motor oil from the garage, pour that down my throat. Of course not, because it's an imitation. None of that is going to satisfy me. And we all know that. It's silly. It's stupid to chase after something that won't satisfy you, because if I start drinking motor oil, what's going to happen? I'm going to die. Yeah, you guys are so smart. I'm so proud of you. Listen to what the prophet Jeremiah says about the worship of Baal. Jeremiah 19, verse 4, because the people have forsaken me and have profaned this place by making offerings in it to other gods, whom neither they nor their ancestors nor the kings of Judah have known, and because they have filled this place with the blood of the innocent and gone on building the high places of Baal to burn their children in the fire as burnt offerings to Baal, which I did not command or decree, nor did it even enter my mind. Worshipping Baal seems like a good idea, but it will kill you. We get so thirsty, and then we pour motor oil down our throats, and we're surprised that our lives are in shambles. Students, church, visitors, my prayer for you this week is that you would see, you would ask, you would maybe, like this widow, wonder if this God, the God of Israel, might just satisfy your thirst. Every morning before I went on a run, my dad would go into the fridge, go into the kitchen, he would take a big old clear glass, he would fill it halfway with ice, and then he would fill it with water, and then he would take the ice cold glass and he would put it in the fridge. And every morning when I got home from my run and I was thirsty, my father would provide something for me to drink, and every single time that clear, good water quenched my thirst, because my father knew what I needed. Students, your father knows what you need. The reason why worshiping the God of Israel is the right thing is because your God knows you. He knows what you need. He knows what will satisfy your thirst.